Hey everyone, I'm Nate Anderson with Thomsen Homes, and I'm pleased to be here with Kayla Kallander from First International Bank and Jeremy Qualley from Qualley & Associates eXp Realty.
More and more homes. When do you buy? Where do you buy?
The home they've always dreamed of.
1, 2, 3.
This is how American families are living in their new homes.
So what's going on with the market today, guys, and what are you seeing out there working with buyers and sellers?
You know, personally on the lending side, what I'm seeing is that there is still some hesitancy. With interest rates still being abnormally high in the buyer's mind, we're seeing that people are kind of coming to that point where they're feeling like it's normal, yet there's still a little hesitancy. The great part is that people are getting approved. So we have a lot of approved people kind of sitting there waiting for those rates to drop. Yet we have a lot of people that are biting the bullet and saying, you know what? I'm going to buy today. I'm going to go ahead and buy at this rate with the hope and faith that rates will decrease.
Sure, and then they can refinance.
They can refinance, yes, they sure can.
So if they can afford it today at today's rates, today's prices, then they'll surely be in a good position when they can refinance down the road.
Yeah, it'll be a cherry on top actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I suppose they're waiting for inventory as well too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're seeing some of that happen right now, right? I mean, our increase in inventory has gone up since last year, which is great. You know, it's something we need to see. Obviously, we want to see more homes out there because the issue that we're dealing with right now is that lack of inventory, high demand, right? The prices still go up, interest rates are up. We're seeing all this, you know, make a huge effect as far as what a buyer's buying power is, right? So what we have to do is we have to have these honest conversations with the clients that we're working with. Tell them, first of all, to be patient. You know, make sure you're getting the quality advice that you're supposed to be getting, right, from either your lender or obviously the realtor you're working with, and then just make that type of decision, you know, on what's going to best be fitted in your goals, right? And that's kind of what we're trying to do as far as our consultations go.
Right. Jeremy, are you seeing that inventory is low across the board, or is it kind of price point driven right now?
For the most part, I would say it's more so price point driven, right? Price point driven. You know, again, the markets in our area here, you know, where you're going to see a lot more inventory is going to be somewhere between that 200 to 400 price range, right? That's where you're going to see the most of it. But then also you're going to see more buyers in that price point too. So you're going to see a lot more competition, obviously during that time. And us going into the spring markets, you know, this is also the time where you're going to have a lot more of that competition, right? So just being advised and being ready to go, being patient, obviously having a pre-approval put in place, right? Making sure that's in place, and just having those honest conversations. You know, again, it's setting expectations, right, for everybody, and that's kind of what we want to do right now.
Awesome. Yeah, it seems like I've seen homes in the lower price points are still going like very quickly because there's just not enough of them, and that's where most of the buyers are, like you mentioned, and so they're still selling very quickly.
Yeah, I can talk a little bit to that. I mean, as far as right now with the spring markets picking up, right? We're in a shifting market, right? That's what we live in. Obviously, we have 4 seasons here, so you know it's starting to feel normal again. You know, we had obviously the years previously, which I consider the COVID years, unfortunately. You know, during that time, we've seen a lack of inventory, which didn't drove up the prices. You know, and still with the low inventory that we have right now, we still have a lot of demand. And so on those types of properties that are in that lower base area, you know, say that 150 to 250, we're seeing multiple offers, and we're seeing a lot of multiple offers on all these properties. So there's a ton of demand out there still.
Yeah, that's great. You mentioned pre-qual as well too, and having those ready to go. Kayla, can you touch on a little bit about that? And are all pre-quals the same, or which pre-quals will kind of help a buyer stand out in this competitive market?
I love that question. So the first part of any type of transaction is get approved, right? We want to make sure that we're being proactive versus reactive. You guys know you don't want to be showing homes if someone is not within their budget. But also, when it's multiple offer situation, you want to make sure that you know the max that a person can go to, or that if you're asking for seller paid closing costs, well, Kayla, what does that look like? One of the things that I always educate my clients on is that when we pre-approve you, we're doing everything up front. We are not guessing your income. We're not just taking pay stubs. We're getting verifications of employment, we're getting bank statements, and we're giving a solid approval. Because no one wants to be in the middle of a transaction and say, oh, my lender told me that actually I'm not approved for that much. So by doing the work up front, like we do, where we gather all the documentation, our approval is solid. That gives clients peace of mind, realtor's peace of mind and seller's peace of mind.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I will also do is when my clients make an offer, I will often call the listing agent and say, hi, I'm Kayla Kallander and I am representing this buyer. And I want to let you know that this is a solid approval. And then we're running the numbers so that my clients are not surprised.
Yep.
There'd be nothing worse than a client getting into a house and making an offer and not knowing the payment.
Right.
So if you're getting pre-approved, you're taking that first step so that when you make those offers, there's no questions, there's no surprises, and the realtors love it because when they're going up 1,000 in asking price or 10,000, their clients know exactly what to expect.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great peace of mind. And as a listing agent for a home builder, we love seeing that. We love knowing that the buyer is pre-qualified and already been through the entire underwriting process. Because as we customize or personalize the home, we want to know that we're spending money, we're building the home of their dreams, and we want to know that they're obviously going to be able to afford it and they're going to be comfortable with that payment.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, transparency is huge, right? I mean, and having those conversations, again, going back to that, it's very important because, it's like you speaking about, the listing side and selling the home, even for myself, selling, a seller's home, they're looking to get into maybe a new build, right? You want to make sure that that buyer who's coming in is pre-qualified, he's pre-approved, everything is ready to go because obviously we don't want to get into that situation where we're halfway through the transaction, they're looking to buy a home and build, and then all of a sudden they get that sad call. So, yeah, absolutely.
Domino effect. And for new builds, we want to know you're not just approved for X, but if they're adding upgrades or they're adding lawn or et cetera, what is not just where you're approved, but what's your max that you can be approved? And also, what does that max look like and does that fit your payment preference?
Right. That's great. Making sure that they're going to be comfortable with that payment long term so that they can be happy in the home, have peace of mind. And we want them, the fun part about home building is that we can build that dream home for them or personalize that home, give them really what they want, and also make sure that they're on budget and comfortable with the payment. Also, we're doing our best as a home builder to try and add inventory to the market, especially in those lower price points. It's fun to have the ability to create new product, to react to what the market is telling us and kind of what the demand is out there. And at Thomsen Homes, we've been doing a lot of that, trying to anticipate what the market is wanting, trying to create new product that's going to keep people in that comfortable price point, but still give them a personalized, unique, brand new home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you seeing that, Jeremy, that type of demand for new construction from the buyers that you're working with instead of being in multiple offer situations on listings?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a lot more of it, right? Just because of still the lack of inventory with existing homes. So, obviously we want to try to give them as many options as possible as long as they're qualified for that price point. We're definitely trying to get them into those homes because, of course, you're dealing with an existing home, something that's been lived in compared to something that's brand new. And if you can afford it, and feel comfortable with that payment, obviously, we're going to try to let you know that that's probably going to be your best route for resale in the long run as well. Because whenever you're looking at buying a property, obviously you're buying it for your family, yourself, in that, but also I'm looking at it as an investment, right? It's an investment that I always am trying to coach my clients about and letting them know that just remember, this is not maybe your forever home, could be, but maybe not. In 5 years, you want to make sure you're making the right purchase, right? And so that's also the conversation I'm having with them. So with the builder side of things too, is like, obviously right now, there's incentives out there, right? And that's, so it's very beneficial for a buyer to start considering those homes a lot more too now, because they can get some of these add-ons, right? And help them out with maybe some closing costs and things like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting time as a home builder where we are seeing some incentives being offered. Sometimes it's price point driven, depending on where that home is priced. But yet we're still seeing pretty much record high demand. It just, the market's still going hot here. And I don't know if it's that way nationally across the board, but locally it still feels like a seller's market for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is.
Absolutely.
And to talk about incentives, if that's something that people are wondering, can I afford a new home? Some of the incentives that are involved, when you think about a brand new home, you typically have cheaper insurance. Some cities give a tax abatement, so you save. But also one of the cool things is that when you are building, you're getting everything customized and brand new. So there's a lot of energy efficient things as well to save, on your utility bills, things like that. And so a lot of clients don't think that they'll be approved for a new home. And then when they see the payments and what we can do, they're pleasantly surprised.
Wow, that's great. That's a really holistic view of looking at it from the utilities that are involved
Yeah.
in the taxes and all those
Yeah,
incentives.
yeah, those are some great points.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything to be aware of as a buyer potentially looking at new construction versus existing? Anything about new construction to be aware of, like on the taxes and specials, or anything that a buyer that's not as familiar with new construction might be good to be aware of?
Yeah, yeah. As far as those conversations that we're having when we sit down and have that consultation, of course we want to make sure, because special assessments is not necessarily a common thing around the country. It's more so here. And so when you're telling someone, obviously you're going to have a payment plus you're going to have an attachment of specials on your property, it's kind of a big surprise to them, and especially with new construction, right? So we want to sit down, we want to have this consultation, we want to coach them through that process and explain to them, this is for the improvement of the area, right? There is a benefit to it, as much as it doesn't feel like that sometimes. There is a benefit to these special assessments, and also like Kayla touched on, with the 2-year tax abatement that we see it across most of the area in the Fargo-Moorhead area. It's also a nice benefit to have for a buyer, right? So they do get to help themselves save some money, and of course when you're buying brand new, there's going to be some added expenses that go into it, right? Like blinds and sometimes your yard work and things like that. So there are some very good incentives along that side, and then obviously making sure and filling them in about the information when it comes to special assessments and what the benefit is to actually having those attached out.
Yeah.
I love the topic on special assessments because for people moving to town that don't know what this is, I can't stress it enough that having a lender and a realtor and a team that educates you, because people don't understand it, and you really need to clarify to them not just what are your current taxes and specials, but what's projected. Are there future infrastructure changes and improvements coming? So if you are buying new construction, I'm sure you guys can both agree, having a team that educates the client, especially if they're new home buyers, especially if they're moving from out of state, it's incredibly important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's why we always recommend a local real estate professional and a local mortgage lender for every one of our home buyers. Again, this is Nate with Thomsen Homes. I'm thrilled to be in one of our spring parade model homes with my friends Kayla Kallander from First International Bank and Jeremy Qualley from Qualley & Associates eXp Realty. Thanks for joining us.